What is something that your child said that you'll never forget? 1. One day, my 2-year-old pointed down the street and said, "Those damn Asians." In shock, I asked her to repeat herself. Same thing. My husband asked her. Same thing. We were completely at a loss to understand where she heard such a thing, especially since we lived in a neighborhood with a very high Asian population, including her nanny. And then it came to me. She was saying those Dalmatians. Phew. Much better. 2. When my daughter was only 5, we were preparing Valentines for the children in her classroom. I picked one up and said, "Oh, give this one to Danny because I like him and he's just so cute." My daughter responded, "No mom, he doesn't like black people." My daughter is Korean and black. I am Korean. Danny is Korean. I had forgotten that a few months prior, Danny had proclaimed to the entire class that he doesn't like black people. The teacher was horrified and so were some of the kids. So when I went to pick my daughter up that day, many of the kids started yelling at me, "Danny said he hates black people. Danny said he hates black people." The teacher pulled me aside and with red, embarrassed face, she explained to me what happened and that she spoke to Danny about how wrong it was, etc. I responded to my daughter, "Well, Danny is from Korea and he probably learned that from his parents because they don't have a lot of black people in Korea. Plus, he's only 5 and he doesn't know any better." Pause. She exclaimed, "Well, I'm only 5 and I know better." Yeah. From that point on, I stopped excusing racism. 3. My 2-year-old at the time decided one day that she likes FG. I thought, what? Exclamation mark. I determined it was best to remain calm, at least on the outside, and then asked her what she had meant. To which her response was, "Mummy before bed FG." Okay, so at this point I was not only confused, I was beginning to get a little concerned and quite frankly frustrated. My husband and I for sure do not swear. The day passed and her newly found vocabulary wasn't exactly cheering me up. Anyways, as we were finishing of her bedtime routine, we sat down to read. Suddenly that word was blurted out again, but this time she dangled a book and looked straight into my eyes, smiling. That's when the laughter got the better of me. All this time my little girl was eager to pronounce Franklin. The joys of having a toddler in your life. 4. When my son was a toddler, 2 of my best friends were gay men. We're friends to this day. In fact, my son Max was a favorite of theirs, and they treated him like uncles would a favorite nephew, playing and joking with him, rolling around in the grass wrestling, and so on. Max knew they were gay, but had no idea what that meant. One day he asked me, "Mom, what does gay mean?" I took a deep breath and thought, oh, heaven help me, parenting moment. I said, "Well, if you were going to get married, would you want to marry a girl or a boy?" He said, "Well, if you're a boy, you're supposed to marry a girl, right?" Well, most boys do. But if you're gay, you'd rather marry a boy. Oh, he said. Okay. Of course, this wasn't the whole story, but you don't always tell the whole story to a 5-year-old. Thankfully, though, this answer seemed to satisfy him. So a few weeks go by, and one day we're on the city bus, going downtown. We would get off near his daycare center, and I'd take him to daycare, then walk the rest of the way to work. So, we're sitting there, riding downtown, and the lady across the aisle leans forward to talk to Max. He was very cute, of course. What 5-year-old isn't? She asks him all kinds of corny questions. How old are you? Do you go to school? Do you have sisters and brothers? And on and on. Then she asks, "Do you have a girlfriend?" And he says, clearly and distinctly in a voice the entire bus could hear, "No, I'm gonna be gay." Whoa. The lady falls back in her seat, shock all over her face, and every head on that bus swiveled back to see the little kid who was gonna be gay. I burst out laughing, and said, "Buddy, you don't get to choose," and then laugh some more. 5. I was an unhappy mom after my child was born. I guess it would be more correct to say that I was depressed for a pretty long time after my son had been born. And he cried a lot. As a person who didn't like to sing, I found it pretty difficult to sing for my son even when I felt it would help. So I somehow picked up a song from the child show I heard in my childhood and Googled the lyrics. Every time he had been crying for more than 5 minutes, I became desperate and started to sing that song. All the time the same song. I guess he was less than a year old back then. My son grew up, got bigger and cried less. After he turned 1, I felt much better too. So I stopped singing that song. I forgot about it. I think he never heard it since he was 1 year old. This happened when he was 3 and already could talk pretty well. I was at work and started to develop a headache. As I usually had no problems with headaches, I didn't take any painkillers and the pain with time became unbearable. I found it difficult to even walk. I had to pick up my son from kindergarten that day. I called my partner to ask for help, but he didn't pick up the phone. I called his mom who lived close to the kindergarten, but she didn't pick up the phone either. So I took some pills and went out. I had one of the most horrible headaches in my life that day and I hardly remember how I got to the kindergarten. I picked up my son and told him directly I had a violent headache. We came home quietly and went to the bathroom to wash hands. I was seated on a little chair there holding my head in my hands. My son was washing his hands and suddenly he started singing. It was that song he heard so many times when he was a baby. He knew it from the beginning to the end, by heart. I will never forget it. 6. I was finishing up with my makeup by putting on my lip liner. My 2-year-old daughter looked at me studiously and asked, "What are you doing, mommy?" I explained that I was putting on my lip liner. She looked a moment longer and then asked, "Are you doing that to scare people?" 7. My daughter was in +2 preparing for IITG exam. After the final exam was over, one day decided to take her for a walk. "Mom, I'll stop my studies here," she said. "But why?" "After getting seat all your struggles will be gone. Engineering is easy." I replied smiling. "No mom, I'll just sit at home doing nothing. No studies, no job, just eating, sleeping and watching my favorite shows on TV. That's all, she continued. I was just smiling, and I knew deep inside. The pressure today's kids are facing, which is inevitable. The tough competition from their peer. Lack of sleep during preparation time. No holidays, no parties, no get-together. Weekend grand tests and their results. And finally proving themselves among 13-15 lock students.